everybody, and welcome to the commented games with Antelacus. Antelacus, it's me, an Italian national chess master. I will comment with you some of my daily chess games, those I consider the most interesting ones I played recently on the platform chess.com. Okay, let's start with this game. This game is very important because I played against a grandmaster, a Russian grandmaster, Andrei Gilozerov, and this game ended in a draw. As you will see, this game wasn't so simple to analyze, and I'm very happy, not only because I drew this game. A draw against a grandmaster is a great result, but because I played very brave moves and it worked. It worked. Okay, let's see how this game developed. I was black, as you can see in red letters, and my opponent played e4, c5, my Sicilian, and we reached the Najdorf position, the Najdorf variation. White played bishop e3, the move that nowadays is the most played. I played e5, knight b3, bishop e6, standard moves. f3, bishop e7, queen d2. This is a standard position. In this position, black can play some moves like, for example, knight d7 or queen c7 or also b5. Many moves are possible. And okay, also possible is castle, many moves. And in many cases, the position is more or less the same because knight bd7 and then castle and so on. So it's a very elastic position. But there is a story about my move. I didn't play one of these moves. I played another move. And there is a story because some days before we reached this position, I was playing against another player. And we reached this position, but with reversed colors. I played exactly as white. So you can imagine to swap the board and to play with white this position. And in this position, my opponent played h5. That's another possible move. h5. And when I saw this move that I didn't know at the moment, I start thinking, oh, this move is stopping g4, of course, but it's an obvious weakness. Is it a good move or not? And I continue playing, I don't remember exactly how, and the game ended in a position that I didn't like absolutely. And I won that game only because my opponent blundered in the endgame, a drawn position. And a few days later, I was in this position against a grandmaster, and I decided to play exactly h5. Please, you are a grandmaster. Show me how to play this position. Show me. Because with reversed colors, I didn't find the correct move or the correct plan. And because I was thinking, oh, it's a grandmaster, very probably I will lose this game. Very, very probably. And so I will learn something important in this position. After h5, is a good move or not? And this grandmaster showed me exactly how to play this position, because he played a move I didn't consider. Knight d5. Okay, knight d5 exists, but seems not to be a great move. because I replied with knight takes, pawn takes, bishop f5. Now d6 remains a weakness, but the column is closed. Seems not to be a good idea to play knight e5. And it's a good idea, because you can consider that in my game, with reversed colors, I castle long side. Probably at this position. After h5, I played long castle. An absolutely playable move, but a very committal move. It sounds strange, but in this position, knight e5 takes bishop f5. I didn't consider that white could play short castle and not long castle. Let's see. Bishop e2, knight e7, the most obvious move, and short castle. And that's a problem, because now I recognized a strategical point and a pawn formation that I know very, very well. Let's play other moves. Castle, knight, a5. And now I realized how to play against h5. I must come back to the very first move to show you this one. Probably everybody knows the Sveshnikov variation of the Sicilian. I called it not the Sveshnikov, but Laska Pelikan, because, okay, it's another name. Knight d5. Knight takes this variation. Takes, knight b8, and here c3 or c4, let's say c4, bishop e7, bishop e2, castle, or no, just a moment, a6, knight c3. This is a very classical position, okay? Bishop 3, knight d7, castle, that's absolutely f5, f4, bishop f6. I played simple moves. And as you can see, this formation is more or less the same of my game against this grandmaster. Daily game, 1 day per move, so not so much time to think. And back to the game, here you can recognize that my pawn is on h7. That's the first difference, very important difference. The other difference is that this pawn is on f3 and not on f4. But another great difference is that the knight is on c3 and not on a5. Back to this position. After knight a5. It's obvious that white's plan is to push c4, b4, and c5, if possible. Rook c1, and so on. And take a look. This position has a great difference, the pawn on h5, that is completely weak. And this position, I don't like. Immediately I recognized that I was in trouble, because this knight on a5 seems to be out of play, and it's not, because it attacks b7, and b6 is not possible because of knight a6. So I cannot play b6. And if I cannot play b6, I cannot stop easily c5. And white's plan is very linear, very obvious, very simple. And as a grandmaster, my opponents played perfectly for many moves. I played queen c7, very logical move, c4, bishop g6. And here there is a problem, because following the other game, the other position I showed you some moments ago, I must play f5, of course. And this pawn is weak. At first glance, it's possible to play h4, and that can be. But I had in mind another idea, starting with bishop g6. As you can see in the left, the evaluations bar is 1 + 1 for white, and that can be true. But I combined a very brave plan that, according to Stockfish, was not completely losing, but wrong. But I didn't like to defend this position. So I decided to play in a very active way. B4, absolutely correct. Sustained in the knight and preparing c5. f5, I think this is a good move, but take a look. This pawn is weak and this square is weak. And that's a great difference respect the Sveshnikov variation. And that's a problem. My opponent played rook c1, ac1 of course, seems to be correct. And here I cannot consider computer moves like Stockfish suggests rook d8. That's a terrible move. Was rook d8 or the other one of the rooks on d8? Probably because after c5, d5 can be hanging. But that's absolutely wrong because the king is on g8 and this diagonal can become very dangerous. So I didn't consider for a while a different move from f4. Bishop f2, and now another brave move. This plan was, I thought this plan completely 3 moves before, when the position was this one. In this position, I realized, oh, absolutely worse. And if I don't react on the king side, my opponent plays b4, rook c1, knight b3. I show you b4, rook ac1, knight b3, maybe a4 and e5. He has the tempo, and then c5. And sooner or later, my position collapses. So I decided to play a brave plan, hoping that also a grandmaster could lose the feeling of the position. Let's see what happened. f5, rook c1, f4, and now knight f6. Knight f6. Oh, the evaluation bar is 1.49 plus white. But I think this is a start of a reaction on the king side in the center. And here is the first crucial point, because my opponent can play, he played bishop d3, a possible move, but c5 is considered better. Because now it's possible. Because there are 1, 2, 3 pieces defending c5, and just 1, 2, 3 defending c5, because the knight is not more on d7. So c5 is possible, and very probably is the best move. And in this position, the computer suggests rook a8. Okay? Rook a8. And I cannot believe this is a correct move, because I think white can take on d6, for example. And queen takes, knight takes b7. What's here? Completely lost because, okay, there is a fork. I don't know how to defend. Okay, no, there is a fork. Okay, it's weak, completely weak. So rook d8 cannot be moved. But I had in mind another super brave move, e4. And in case of c5, I can assure you I would have played e4. Brave move, according to Stockfish, is losing because of c takes, queen takes, and bishop c5. That's the only possible move, and that's the first point. If my opponent has a difficult move and this is the only possible move, I'm very happy, because first of all, he can miss it. For example, taking on d7 is a losing move, because I can play, okay, queen b8 is a computer move, but it's also possible simply e3. And now, for example, knight takes, pawn takes, you have 2 hanging pieces, so rook c6 is the only move, takes, and bishop c2. Or rook e8, rook e6, and bishop c2. And now white has no moves. It's very difficult to find a move here, because now I'm threatening to take on d5. and this pawn is very strong. I'm a pawn down, 2 pawns, no, 1 pawn down, yes, but this doesn't absolutely matter. My position, I think, is a very good position, so knight takes b7 is not possible. I, of course, don't know if my opponent consider e4 after c5, but I think a grandmaster can consider exactly a brave move like e4. All of this didn't happen because my opponent didn't play c5. But I can assure you, in case of c5, my next move would have been e4 with a great confusion. Okay, it's winning for black. Okay, I will lose a game against a grandmaster. Nothing happens. And it's a pity that my opponent didn't play c5 in this position. It would be very interesting to ask him why didn't he play c5? What did he discover he didn't like? But the problem is that here he played bishop d3, and bishop d3 is absolutely playable. Absolutely playable. And here, okay, I didn't like to trade bishops because after bishop takes, queen takes, I have many weaknesses in light squares. Here, here, here. Many weaknesses. Sooner or later I will face queen g6, so I didn't like to take. But of course e4 is a very obvious move. My opponent took, of course, and now I played another strange move. What would you play in this position? It's possible to take on e4 with 2 pieces, with a bishop or with a knight, or playing something else like knight g4, for example. Stockfish suggests exactly knight g4. Okay, would you imagine what did I play in this position? Okay, if you like to guess, stop for just a while the video and then restart it. Okay, I'll show you my decision. Stockfish considers knight g4. Pawn down, but then knight d5, blocking something. I absolutely don't like this decision. I decided to take on e4, but with the knight or with the bishop. Some moments ago, I told you in this position that I didn't like to trade bishops because the many weaknesses on light squares will appear in my camp. So, sorry, seems to be absolutely logical in this position that is very similar to take with the knight, not with the bishop. But after knight takes e4 and knight takes e4, I win one of the bishops. Okay, seems to be correct. And bishop takes, for example, bishop takes, c5. And I didn't like this position. I have the bishop pair, but f4 is hanging, c5 has been played. I don't like this position. Knight c4 is coming. So, for some reasons, I was absolutely happy about my position, and I decided to take with the bishop. Very strange move, because some moments ago I told you, oh, too many weaknesses in light squares, and I took with the bishop. But the idea was completely different now, because I've played 3 or 4 brave moves in a row, completely changing the character of the position and of the strategical point of view. So I decided to continue this way. My opponent played rook e1, and this is a mistake. Cannot be a correct move. The best move, at least the best move, rook e1. Because the rook belongs to c1 to play c5. So moving the rook from c1 cannot be correct. And This time, Stockfish is agreed. Rook ce1 loses practically all the advantage. In this position, which is the correct move for white? h3 is a possible move. Taking g4, taking the square on g4, and knight g4 is not more possible. But I think this is a wasted tempo. Another possible move is bishop d4, attacking the knight, threatening to take and to win a piece. But in my opinion, the best move is knight b3, because now the knight on a5 is doing nothing, and c5 is coming. I don't know what would have played here. Maybe queen d7 to take some light squares with the idea of queen g4, queen f5, and something like that. But it's obvious that knight e4 is coming, queen g4, because knight e6 cut off the queen from the king side. And here, I don't know, probably takes, now I take the other bishop. The knight is very strong. I think white is absolutely better. Stockfishes agree. And in this position, knight b3 maybe is the best move. And my opponent played rook ce1. This is an ugly move. I'm sorry for you, dear grandmaster, but also you can make mistakes. And rook ce1 loses more or less all white's advantage. Of course, I took immediately, and it's true. Now I have many weaknesses here, but the position is completely different now because the rook is not on c1. And I can play knight g4. And knight g4 with the idea of knight e5 controls many light squares. And this knight suddenly is completely out of play. And knight g4 I had in mind many moves ago. So knight g4 and attacking the bishop on f2. And if I trade this bishop, okay, c5 will be never possible. I have some weaknesses on e6, on g6, but I think this is not so important because bishop f6, rook e8, and this knight must be moved on b3 and on d4. Too tempting, not easy to realize. And after knight g4, my opponent played bishop e4 because he didn't like to trade this bishop for my knight. Of course, bishop f6, trying to trade this strong piece. This is a very strong piece because it controls a great diagonal, a strategical diagonal. So I tried to trade it some way. And this is based on a tactical consideration. My opponent played rook e6. I think it can be a good move, seems to be a good move. But I must consider rook takes f4. And in this case, I will play bishop takes, rook takes. I think this is the best move. And now, very probably, rook e8. Something like that. I'm a pawn down, but this knight is completely out of play. I'm threatening a check here if the rook moves. There are many possible moves. Or also queen b6. Queen b6. Queen b6, okay, that seems to be not the best move. h3, knight f6, okay. Can be not, okay. Queen b6 is not correct, but I think this is a position I can hold. Absolutely. Or rook f7, rook f6, idea rook f8. I think I have some counterplay. So when I decided to play bishop f6, of course I knew that rook takes f4 was possible. But rook takes f4 seems not to be correct. My opponent played rook e6. And after rook e6, rook 6 is a standard move. It's an obvious move, but it's not the best move. Because I took on d4, trading very dangerous bishop, and rook f7. Probably this move uh, my opponent missed. And this is the best move, absolutely. And I realized that after rook takes f4, I have two possible moves. Maybe the best one is rook f8, af8, because now takes, threatening checkmate, rook e1, only move rook e1, and here I have knight f2, knight e5. I'm still a pawn down, but don't consider it. Now I have great compensation, because this knight is out of play, this knight is absolutely strong, c5 is not possible, because I can play, what about c5, yes, queen g6. Queen g6, threatening a triple fork here. It's not possible to play king h1, because knight d3 with a fork here. Okay, with a check, not with a fork. Okay, black is playing and white is not playing. White is lost very probably. You can see the bar. All the bar is black. So rook f7 is, in my opinion, a great move. And my opponent played h3, the correct move. Knight a5, knight e5, sorry. That's obvious, and that's obvious that you cannot take on f4. Okay, you can, but again, rook f8, and nothing changed, and the pawn on h3 is not an improvement for white, so you can check by yourself. I was absolutely convinced that this position was good for black and not for white, and the reason is this knight completely out of play. And okay, and my opponent plays c5, and that's very curious, because in this position white has some moves like, okay, there is knight takes b7, a very curious move. Queen takes, rook takes d6, sacrificing a piece. And I don't know if it can work. Knight d7, I think. It can work. There is some compensation. Absolutely, c5. And there is some compensation. Okay, my opponent didn't play this move. But in this position can take on f4, can play knight takes b7, can take one of these pawns. In this position he played c5. And c5 seems to be absolutely correct, because this pawn is under attack now. I cannot take. Of course I cannot take, I lose a piece. So it seems to be correct. But very curiously, my opponent played all his game to reach the position and play c5. Rook c1, b4, knight a5, and so on. But when it was correct to play c5, he didn't play it. I don't know why, but he didn't play it. And he played it now. And now it's the only moment it's not correct. Not correct. Because I have a terrible counterplay after f3. f3 is an obvious move. Of course, you cannot take because there is a fork. You can show you, check, and you must take. I take, and believe it or not, with rook f8, queen f7, this white king is completely unsafe. The bar is showing this. I didn't analyze it exactly, but I was absolutely sure that taking the pawn wasn't correct. Absolutely. And my opponent played g3, a very logical move. I played check. Why not check? The pawn cannot be taken because there is a check. Rook takes, and here, in respect of the previous variation, there is a pawn on g3. But this cannot be an improvement because I'm threatening rook takes g3. So this cannot be played. So after the check, the king must move. Where my opponent played another blunder. No, sorry, my opponent played the correct move. King g2. Yes, there is no other move because, for example, king h2, there is a fork on f3. The only other possible move is king h1, but knight f3 is winning. Queen anywhere, I think taking on f2, for example, and after knight g5 is losing something. So king h1 cannot be played. So king g2 is the only move, but it's absolutely obvious that the danger from my position is past, and now it's white who is in danger. And because of c5, knight f3, logical move. Now, of course, queen takes, loses the queen after check. So taking on f2 is not possible. My opponent played queen e3, very logical move, seems to be the best move. And here I played check on e1, defending f2, because now white was threatening to take on f2 with the rook. And the character of the position is completely changed. Now it's a tactical skill. And in tactics, you can lose immediately a winning game. And I decided to enter in a tactical position when I realized that strategically I was more or less completely lost. And because my opponent played c4, b4, was absolutely convinced to play c5. And it's obvious with the knight on a5, there is a great difference from a knight on c3, for example. Okay, knight e1 check, and here king h1. I expected king h1 because I was convinced that king h2 was worse because of rook f8. And now what do you play now? Pawn takes, that's possible. Queen d7. I move my queen, threatening rook f3. What do you play here? And here I have a great compensation because this king is completely unsafe. This rook, I don't know if you can move. In case of knight c4, was thinking about a check. Check here, king g2, h4. Yes. And this king is absolutely unsafe. Absolutely unsafe. Okay, this can be playable. But after king h2, okay, my opponent played king h1. And in this position, I had a probably winning move. I didn't consider it completely because I decided to took on c5. And as you can see, this is a drawn, and now Stockfish is correct. This is an even position. The winning move, or the best move, was rook f8, and it's very strange that I missed this move in this position, because I bring the last piece into play, and I was convinced that this wasn't possible to be played because of rook takes d6. As you can see, that's not true, because I have a move like h4. I completely missed it. Okay, because now g4 is not possible. Rook f3 is winning immediately. I completely missed that h4 would be winning. Or winning or not, I don't know if it's winning. Rook g6, for example, is playable. But here, no, it's not playable. Rook g6 is not playable because of rook e7. Rook e7, very strange move. Oh, here we are in a computer move because, oh, terrible, d6. No. These are computer moves. I cannot play a position like this one. And in this position, that's a tactical position. And without the help of computer, you can blunder any moment. And really, I didn't play a move like rook f8. I took on c5 because I was convinced now, okay, now I can take on c5. What do you play now? You cannot take on c5 back, because with the pawn, the knight is hanging. And with the queen, queen takes g3, and checkmate very soon. So when I took on c5, I was very happy, and I was convinced to be better. Rook takes f2, of course. Takes, only move. And knight e2, forking the queen and the pawn on b4. What can be wrong here? I was thinking, oh, maybe I'm winning against a grandmaster. Oh, great game. great game, brave game, very lucky, maybe, but it's not my fault if my opponent played a bad move. My opponent very probably played a bad move because I played brave moves. I didn't calculate exactly what's going on. Knight e3, queen f3 here, queen e3, queen f3, okay, can be possible. Knight takes b4, because this knight is hanging. It was possible also to take with the pawn, because the knight here is hanging, because queen takes, but in this case my queen is more or less out of play, the rook is out of play, d6 is coming. I'm a pawn up, but I don't consider a pawn, a single pawn, in a position like that, because a pawn is not so important. So I decided to take with the knight, d6 of course, queen d7, attacking the rook, and the rook cannot move because h3 is hanging. Okay, so my opponent played queen b3. I'm a pawn up. Now white has many great threats, so I played queen f7. Here my opponent played rook e7. I don't like rook e7. In this case, I'm agree with Stockfish, who consider rook e5 better, attacking two pawns. And he played rook e7, take, of course I took, and here I'm a pawn up, the only danger is this pawn, and I decided to play, after calculating exactly every single move, to play the most drawish move, that is knight c6. Trading the last piece, not the last piece. The knight takes, rook c7, rook d8, rook takes, king f7, and here it's absolutely draw. I can lose a pawn for just a moment. My opponent can, you can take any pawn, you can understand easily that this is a very simple draw. For example, here, rook b6. Check, king g6, rook here, and okay, I'm a pawn that now maybe there is something better here. After taking here, I can play king e6 or take. Rook d3, sorry. The rook d3, forking the 2 pawns, yes. And it's absolutely drawn here. And 2 against 1 is absolutely drawn and will never happen. So rook takes, king f7, king g2, defending this pawn, but it's obvious the game is completely drawn. King e6, rook takes, g6, defending h5, rook g5, king f6, rook d5, king e6, drawn by repetition. And ironically, the pawn on h5, weak pawn for all the game, didn't fall. And c5, the strongest pawn, the strongest push, ended with a very weak pawn on d6. Very ironical. And I drew a game against the Grandmaster. Again, I could have won at certain moments. And I think this is a very instructive game because of many reasons. I take back everything to show you back the crucial moments. The first crucial moment is here, when I played h5, copying a move of another opponent of mine. And the Grandmaster showed me exactly how to play this variation. Short castle is the key. Short castle, that's the key. And not long castle, as I did in my game in this position with reversed colors. And here, knight a5 and c4, and the idea is b4, rook c1, and c5. And that's a very simple idea, strategically perfect idea. And when I realized it, I started to play brave moves. It worked, but I was absolutely very lucky. Bishop g6, and this idea, in my opinion, there is only this possible counterplay. Because if I play, as Stockfish suggests, rook d8 moves like that, I will lose sooner or later. Playing this way, I was very lucky because rook. This is the second possible, the second key moment when my opponent played rook e1. And after rook e1, the push on c5 is not so strong. And here, and from now on, I have some compensation for an eventual pawn down, the pawn on f4, and the position becomes more or less equal. And c5 now is wrong. It's very curious because my opponent waited till now to play c5, and he played at the wrong moment. Okay, in this position, what would you play here, c5 or not? It's not easy to choose because knight takes b7 is a computer move. Nobody would play knight takes b7. And rook takes f4 is possible, but seems to be good for black with some compensation. Seems to be, and it's. Okay? So in this position, very probably my opponent realized that his advantage was gone, more or less, and decided to play c5. And after f3, I have great compensation. Oh, great compensation. I'm better. According to Stockfish, I'm better. Not winning, probably, but I'm better. And the game continued with some tactics, with some mistakes for both sides. But here, that's not so interesting. That's computer moves, not computer moves, tactical moves with some mistakes, some imprecisions from both sides. But I sometimes people ask me, other chess players ask me, how many moves do you consider, do you preview when you are playing? And they are very surprised when my reply is, how many moves? Very often, not one. Not one. Not one, because I try to play strategical moves and not tactical moves. But in the position of this game, in this position, is the critical position here, there are, after c5, there are no strategical moves. It's only tactical moves. And I continue my plan. I've been very current, because my plan started with bishop g6, as you remember, and is still working now. A counterplay on the king side against the push on c5. It worked. I was very, very lucky. Okay, it can be. You can see, you can tell, you can say I was lucky. Okay, I accept it. But without mistakes, chess would be very annoying. Stupid game. So, I consider this game one of the best games I played daily on chess.com. Because against the Grandmaster, and because I drew, and because my opponent showed me how to play against h5. And so, if someone will play against me h5, now I know how to play. And with the experience of this game, very probably I will not make the wrong moves. Okay. Very interesting game. I hope you can consider this game as a very important one for your variation, for your strategy in positions like that, in the Sveshnikov's variation of the Sicilian, and also in this one. Okay, I hope you enjoy with this game, and thank you very much for following my analysis. If you enjoyed very much, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can also see on Twitch when I have another challenge, another channel named Antelacus. It's me, Antelacus, and you can follow me there and see how I'm doing in that channel. Okay, thank you very much, and see you next commented chess game with Antelacus. Bye bye.